Greetings, Inspiry fam. It's your girl Angie back with another episode on my YouTube channel. I am here in Washington, D.C. with Mrs. Virginia Turner. She was married to her husband for 44 years before he passed away in 2007. I had the pleasure to sit down at her home and talk about everything relationships and how she was able to make it until death through sickness into 44 years, and to know that if he was still living, they would be working close to being married to 60 years. Stay tuned.
So by May, I was so big I couldn't walk hard. I went back to that doctor. I said, y'all got to take another sonogram. I said, because there's no way I can be this big with no one baby, and I got 2 more months to go. So I called those in. I told them, I said, they going to do a sonogram because I said, I believe it's more than one. He said, if it's more than one, I'm going to get my bed and go to the garage. So they did the sonogram and they told me it was twins. I called them up. I said, okay, you can get your bed and go to the garage. He said, about what? He was so sure they had done it before. He said, oh, it ain't but one.
My father just instilled a work ethic in me that to this day I've never forgotten, and it's helped me in every way of life. And Mom instilled in me the value of $1. I don't care how much you make 50 cents, you need to save 10 cents. And that's actually helped also. And she was the financial expert that just made me think of always trying to save and think for the future. And my father was the one that always worked, and brought it home. And that's just, I don't even think he did it purposely. That's just the way he was, and that's just the way that I saw him. And you know, those values just were instilled in me from a little child, from the both of them.
Deacon Ozzie L. Turner Sr. was born December 1918. He parted this world in April 2007, leaving behind his devoted wife of 44 years, Virginia Turner. Ozzie L. Turner Sr. was born in Georgia, later moving to Washington, D.C., owning businesses and being the head deacon of Mount Sinai Permanent Baptist Church. He is most known for his hard work, love for his family, and his church. Ozzie and Virginia share 5 children together, a host of grands, and friends to attest to the love they once shared.
About them always putting family first, and then putting God first and then family. But they go hand in hand if you know anything.
Sis Turner, I really truly want to thank you for letting me interview you. You know, I'm a relationship advocate. I love to talk about relationships and promote it and help people get in a better position to make it like you did 44 years. And if your husband hadn't passed away, you guys would have been working on 56, right?
That's right.
Close to 60 years.
Mm-hmm.
How does that make you feel?
Well, it made me feel good that we were together that long. And to know we would have still been together.
Yeah.
Now, my parents were married together 67 years before my father passed. They had their 66th wedding anniversary, and he passed the next year.
Yeah.
So, out of the family, we were used to people being together a long time.
You saw longevity.
Yeah, right.
And that's what,
Yeah, that's what I saw.
You know, my generation, we don't look to long term. We don't understand longevity.
Right.
And I'm very big on foundation principles.
Right.
What would you have said your foundational principles were to get you to 44 years?
Well, I think first you have to love the person.
Right.
Second, you have to trust the person. And then you have to communicate.
Yes.
When you have a problem, talk about it. Don't.
Right.
And I don't mean talk to somebody else. Talk to that person.
Yeah.
And you know, just work it out.
Yeah.
And that's what we did.
I like that. I like how you said talk to the person and not somebody else.
Right.
Because a lot of the times, family and friends, they'll steer you in the wrong direction.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The first thing they say, well, I wouldn't do that, I wouldn't take this, and I wouldn't do that, and all that. And, you know, they don't even know the whole story sometimes.
Right.
And they can give you the wrong advice.
Right.
So it's best to talk it out among yourselves. Do things, and above all, do things together.
Right.
I didn't have this, oh, I'm going out with the girls and all this stuff. What we did it together.
Yes, I love that.
Right.
I love that.
And that's the difference in today. The girls, they don't, I mean, husbands and wives don't do a lot of things together. He's out with the men, she's out with the girls. And I think sometimes you can get into trouble like that.
Yeah.
That's right. And you need to be together. It's protection for both of you.
Yeah. It creates a disconnect too when you're constantly hanging around friends and you wanting to always go out with the friends instead of doing stuff together as a couple. Yeah.
Right. And I know we always had Friday nights. It was always our night we went out to dinner. Every Friday night. Well, they call it now date night. I guess it was date night.
Yeah, it was old school date night.
Yeah, right. But we would go out to dinner on Friday nights. And I mean, we did that even after he stopped driving.
Right.
And I had to drive. We still went out.
Now I'm curious, how were your date nights when the children came about? How did y'all cope with that?
Well, when they were small, you know, sometimes we had this lady named Miss Mary. She was a babysitter. She would come over and stay with the kids.
Let's go back to the beginning and how y'all met. What was that like? Take me back all those years
Okay,
ago.
I met him at his cousin's house, which was Julia Kilgore. You know, they were first cousins.
Okay.
And I was living with her. I moved here from Danville, and I was living with her.
In D.C.?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, she lived on C Street, right, not far from me. And he came over, and we just sat there and talked. Well, then I didn't see him anymore for 2 weeks. Julia and I was sitting on the porch, and he drove by. At that time, he was driving a cab part-time. And he saw us, and he stopped. And Julia got up and went in the house, and we sat on the porch, and it just started from there. Then we just started going out, and it just went from there.
Right.
6 months later, 7 months later, we got married.
Really? I did not know that.
Sure did.
6, 7 months later.
We got married.
Wow.
Sure did. Got married in Julia's house.
Oh my goodness.
And Elabeth and Marla. And we had about 6 or 7 people there that night. Because Sis Bedney, Sis B, Sis Hussey, Sister Ewell, and another lady. She's passed. And they all came, and they were, and we were at her house. We got married in her living room.
I'm still stuck on the 6, 7 months because I feel like nowadays people would not last in their relationships, just overall. Just meeting and getting married within 6, 7 months. What do you think the generations are different now? Do you think people can know each other for just that short period of time and still make it?
You know, I always say we had kind of, my family and his family was a lot alike. They were brought up in church and everything. His family was brought up in Primitive Baptist Church. So we had some of the same values.
Right.
So that makes a big difference in a marriage too. You have the same values and you like doing the same things.
Right.
Because he knew on Sunday morning
he was going to church.
He was going to church. And I wouldn't give that up for anything.
Right.
So, and he was brought up that way, but you know how men are, they kind of get away from it if they don't have a woman to kind of pull them, you know, make sure that they get up and go. And so then he started going.
Right.
And let me see, we got married in January. In August, he joined church that same year.
So you had a positive influence in his life.
Right. Yes, he did. And from then on, we just traveled. We went to church, but we went together.
Right.
And when my children were small, we would get up and get my kids ready. We bought a van when the twins were born.
Mm-hmm.
We put a playpen in the van, because you can't do that now.
Right, yeah.
And we used to put them, right, because you gotta have them strapped down and all that. And still more kids get killed now than they do then.
Yeah.
And we would get up on Sunday morning. We wanted to go to Philadelphia. We put them kids in the van, put the small ones that couldn't sit on the seat, we put them in a playpen.
Right.
And set it in the van, and we went to church.
Right. We talked earlier about this, about kids growing up in a two-parent household versus a single-parent household. And I wanted to hear your intake and get it on camera, what you felt about the importance of kids seeing two parents in a household.
Well, I think that's very important, because a woman cannot teach boys exactly what they need to know as a man.
Right.
Neither can a man do the same for girls.
Right.
They need both of them. They need the woman's input.
Right.
They need the man's input.
Right.
And I think that's very important. It's just like my son was saying. His dad would say, go make the money. His mom would say, save the money. You say, if you didn't make for $10, save 50 cents.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I used to always tell. If you don't get for $10, save 50 cents of it. You always have a little bit of savings for emergencies, because you never know what's going to happen in life.
Right.
And I think that was very, very important.
Right.
And I know all of my kids were taught checking accounts. And all, when they were small, when they couldn't sign a check, they could have the checking account, but your parents would have to sign if you were under 18 with you. And I took my kids to the bank, showed them, how they open accounts and how to do things that they would need to know as an adult.
Right.
And you can't start too early.
Right, yeah. I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, that's right. You can't start too early.
You guys implemented teamwork with raising your children.
Right.
Right.
That's right. And then we did things together with our
kids. As a family, yeah.
Yeah, right. I remember we would take them, like we took them to Reading, Pennsylvania to see the Christmas lights. Yeah. We would take them when they would have the trees downtown, they'd have a Christmas tree for each state down on the mall. And I mean, now he was much older than I, but he had a young mind.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, he loved to do things that young couples did. So that makes a difference too. You both need to want to do the same thing.
Right.
I know we went to Georgia, and we went to Stone Mountains, and we went to Florida. We rode on a glass bottom boat.
Yeah.
I mean, we did all the things that most people his age would never do.
Right.
So that was good too, because I mean, we just enjoyed doing things together.
You would consider you and Deacon Turner equally yoked, what they call equally yoked. That's right. And I told mine all our 44 years of marriage, it never was a night that we spent apart unless he was at church or something, or union meeting, and I couldn't go. But or we got mad, and I'm going here, and you go about your business, and I mean, it just didn't happen that way. Now, it wasn't perfect. We didn't always agree on everything, but you discussed you work it out.
You work.
That's what you need access to these tools. But if you're in a weakened state, if you're not armed with God's word, if you're not armed with high standards, people can flatter you into hell.
Yeah.
People can flatter you into what if my father was weak?
Yeah.
And his confidant was a girlfriend, a platonic friend. What would that have done to our lives?
Y'all would have saw dysfunction, you know.
That's true.
What would it have done to my mom not to have the confidence of his love and attention when raising us? What if I witnessed, instead of my mom taking money back to the bank, to be honest, instead of them working together in worship, what if I witnessed them hanging out with their opposite sex friends? Or walking in the room while they on the phone?
In that 44 years, how did you, because like you said, there would have been some disagreements. How did you get through those? You talked about communication earlier.
Right. Well, you talk about it, and you might not ever agreed on exactly, but you can agree to disagree.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, you can agree to say, okay, well, we might not agree, but you still husband and wife.
Yeah, I think that's the problem with my generation. We just always want to be right.
Oh yeah, always want to have the last say.
The last, and
it doesn't matter who has the last say. What difference does it make? Right. I mean, some things are just not even worth discussing. Even disagreeing over or having an argument over. Who cares who had the last say?
It's what the young kids call petty.
Yeah, right.
You're being petty right now, so let it go.
Yeah, just let it go. I'm telling you, it's a big difference now to what it was what it was when we came along.
Right. As a, how old were you when you got married?
I would have been 28 the next day.
28. So you got married the day before your birthday.
Yeah, that's right.
So you got double presents, and I hope so.
Yeah, I always told you was my birthday present. Yeah, we got married on the 11th. And you know who we have a lot in common is your grandparents. Because Sister Tolliver's birthday is on the 10th. We got married on the 11th.
Me and one of your daughters, Marilla, was talking about how close her family is to my family, and just how connected we all are. And I was talking to my grandmother about you, and she was saying how well mannered your kids always were when they were children.
Oh,
yeah.
They didn't have a choice.
Who was the disciplinary? You or Deacon Turner? Who was whooping behind most?
I mean,
you could never pit one against the other because they talked about everything. They told each other everything. Even if one was home with the kids and they had to punish or whatever, they would tell the other one when they got home. So you could never pretend something didn't happen. They shared everything.
So you were pretty young. 28 is still it's grown, but it's kind of young.
Yeah, I was 28 and he was 44.
Oh, really?
Well, he's 16. You were 16 years older than me.
Wow.
But see, I was the type of person. I never hung out with people my age. Because I never did the things that people my age did. Right. I never hung out in clubs and all this kind of stuff. And I joined church when I was 20 years old. Down in Virginia, the Local Association. And so I had been in church since I was 20. Went to church all my life. And I always hung out with older people. Right. And when I moved here, I hung out with Julia, which was old, 16 years older than me. Sister Bedney, Sister Hussey, Sister Yule, all of them. They were my friends. Right. I didn't hang out with the people that was my age because they were still in the street.
So even though he was 16 years older than you, you had a mature attitude.
Right.
So you were able, okay.
Right, because now, when he was 20-some years old, I probably wouldn't have married him. Right. But at the time when I met him, he was 44. Right. Well, he was 43. We got married. He turned 44 that December, and we got married the next year in January. January 11th.
Any you read my book Thou Triumph, and I talked about submissiveness in that book. What is your opinion on and your take on submissiveness? Because again, my generation, we have an issue, young women, with wanting to submit to a man, allow him to be the leader. How did you handle that, and what advice do you have to young people for that?
That's according to the man. Some men use that submissiveness as being ruler over. Oh, that's not what submissive means.
Right.
It means letting them be the leader.
Right.
But it doesn't mean that they just walk all over you or do things without any consent.
Right.
Now, we had a thing, we would never go out and make bills and that they wouldn't know about it. Like, even if I was working, when I got ready to buy my car, although I was buying a car, but I would never go and buy a car and not tell him I'm buying it. Because you're making a bill, that money's going out of the house.
Right.
And that he is still the head of the house.
Right.
But, I mean, but some people say, oh, I'm working, it's my money, I'm going to do what I want to do. But that's not the way it's supposed to work.
I keep going back to what you said in the beginning. It's a together thing.
You're right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And the thing was, you don't go out and make bills and want to know what you're doing.
Right.
He shouldn't go out and make bills either without you knowing, even though he's headed out, because suppose he gets sick or something happened that maybe you get laid off a job or something. Who's going to take over?
Right.
That other
it falls
person.
on you, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. It's just the respect thing, right?
Right. That's it. That's respect. It's just like I say, love, trust, and communications are the three most important things. You first gotta love the person. Second, you gotta trust the person. Because if you don't trust them, every time they go out the door, you wonder who they will. That's not gonna work.
No, yeah.
Nah, that's not gonna work.
Yeah. He has been deceased now since 2007, right? That's 12 years. Did you ever consider yourself getting a little friend? Never? Never. I never even Your kids wouldn't have that either, would they?
I don't know what they would or not, but they didn't have that to worry about.
It never crossed your mind.
Never crossed my mind. I never saw not another man that I ever wanted in my life.
He was the true love of your life.
That true love of my life. Never even thought about another one. Yes, I was 72 when he passed. Yes.
Any thing you would do differently in your marriage, or do you just have the mindset of like everything is just a learning experience?
Most of it is a lot of it is a learning experience.
Right.
I don't know of anything different that I would have done.
Right.
Because I mean, we did things just like I said, we did things together. And I don't know what else I could have done.
Right.
You know, really, I think about it a lot of times myself when I be laying there and say, was it anything else I could have done? You know, you think about all these things once a person is gone, but I couldn't think of anything.
Right.
Because, and I know he was sick from when he had that first heart attack and fell down the steps at church. He got sick. It was from April 9th. It was January 19th. And he was in the hospital from then until April. He passed on April 19th. I missed 2 days of being at that hospital out of all those 4 months.
Wow.
I was there every day.
Loving in sickness.
I stuck right with him every day. I missed 2 days of going to the hospital.
Did you ever feel like it was a lot? I don't want to use the word burdened, but did you ever just feel overwhelmed?
No.
No.
Mm-mm.
You did what any good wife would do.
That's
that
right.
Actually loved their husband.
That's right.
Right.
I never thought, and I never will forget, even before that happened, when he had this brain surgery one time. Oh, that was years ago.
I didn't know he had brain surgery.
Yeah, right. Cause it was back in, I forgot what year it was, but I know we went to church.
Mm-hmm.
We went to conference, and he used to pick up Sis June Breeze and her mother. They would pay him to come pick them up on third Saturday, bring them to conference, and then he'd pick them up on Sunday, bring them to church.
Right.
And he left. We had the laundromat on H Street, and he left going to pick them up, and he had a brain thing or something happened. He never got there. He got lost.
Oh my goodness.
Going there. We went to conference. We didn't know where he was. And I never forget, Al Hawkins was a pastor. He had just started pastoring at the time. And we went through conference and we came home. I called everywhere trying to find out. And when they found we had this van, he had ran off the road out near the cemetery. What's the name of that cemetery? I can't think of it now. That everybody uses most. And
Lincoln, was it Lincoln?
No, not Lincoln. It was, I can't think of that cemetery. But anyway, that's where he was. He had ran off the road, and they had taken him to PG Hospital because it was on the Maryland side.
Right.
And so I came home that evening, and we had called everywhere. Never thought to call PG Hospital because we were in D.C. So
Right.
And I was coming down the steps, and the phone rang, and I answered the phone, and this somebody from PG Hospital called me and told me that they had him there. And they said, when you come, you need to bring somebody with you. Well, you know, that scared me to death.
Right.
So I went by 8th Street, picked Sherman up, and we went to the hospital. And they said he wasn't talking. It said that he couldn't answer their questions or something. And they said they couldn't get any information out of him. When I walked in there, as soon as I walked in there, he spoke. He knew me.
He knew you. Ain't
He
that
said
love?
Yes, they were sitting on the bed. They said, we can't get any information out of him. But when I walked in there, he called my name. And they were so surprised, they couldn't believe it, but he remembered me.
That's beautiful right there.
Yes, indeed, he remembered me. He sure did.
Do you have any words of encouragement for young couples like myself, young couples coming after me, of loving somebody through their sickness, loving them to death until death?
Well, for one thing, those were the vows you took. They ask you that question when you get married. I mean, well, they tell you that. And if you love the person, you're not gonna turn your back on them because they got sick or something. And I never will forget one time I drove up after he had stopped driving. I drove up in front of Mount Sinai, and I came around to help him get out of the car. And Sis Johnson said to me, Sis Johnson from Chester, she said, Sis Turner, you sure take care of your husband. I thought to myself, what am I supposed to do?
Right.
I mean, I I guess it was surprising to her because so many people, they don't have the patience. But I never got impatient. Well, then when he got told he couldn't drive, and after he had the brain surgery, he didn't have as much use of his fingers and things. I used to button his shirt, tie his tie on Sunday morning before we went to church. And I never forget Elder Joseph Carrier came and he taught me how to tie a tie. And I used to get up and tie his tie on Sunday morning. At cook breakfast, we would eat. I would whoop that, help him get dressed, and then he would come down here while I get dressed. But when he went out, nobody knew he didn't dress himself. He always looked good.
He was sharp, huh?
Yeah. And I shopped for his clothes, bought his suits, bought his clothes, everything. But I don't regret not one second of it.
I know that's right.
Never.
I'm really, really inspired and encouraged by this because people just don't stay married this long anymore, and
I know.
and they don't love so much. We love on condition now.
Right. Thank you. That is so true.
Yeah, and
if you do this, if you do that, but that's not the way God intended for it to be.
Yeah.
He said until death do us part.
Just the fact that you got up and tied his button his shirt, like got him almost like getting a baby together.
Right, because he couldn't use his fingers because of the condition he had gotten in. Oh yes, indeed. Always.
Do you have any parting words? Anything you would want to let anybody know? What's the best marriage advice you can give somebody right now?
The best marriage advice is just like I said, love, trust, and communications.
All right.
Those are the three. If you love that person, you trust that person, you all communicate, there's nothing left.
All right. Look, let's pound it.
That's right. That's right. But those are three things you just have to have.
Right.
You have to have love. You have to have trust. And but now one thing about it has to work both ways.
You're right.
Because
it takes two.
I can love you all I want to. But if you don't trust me, then it's not gonna work.
Right.
Because you will still, every time I go out the door, if you don't trust me, well, who's she going to see? Or who else out there waiting for her? I never had that to worry about. Because out of our 44 years, it never was a night that he was out of this house, I didn't know where he was.
Right.
I was never out of this house that he didn't know where it was. Even during the day, when he was working, when he was at the State Department, if I was going to go out and go to the mall or something, I would call him up and say, oh, I'm going to the mall.
Yes.
He knew where I was. He didn't, if something happened, he said, oh, I don't know where she was going.
Right.
I don't think a husband or a wife should ever have to say that about one another. I don't know where she was going.
I agree 110% with that. I have an app on my phone. I can tell you right now exactly where my husband is. Right. Address and everything. And it's just, some people may look at that and say, oh, that's too invasive. That's too much.
What kind of privacy you going to have from your wife?
Right, exactly.
If it was somebody else, it'd be different. But you should know.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should.
The conversation continued with Marella Turner and V. Solomon as we talked about double standards in society and in the church house. Stick around if you want to hear more about what we discussed.
Where is your fear of the Lord? Because faithfulness is not to a man, and faithfulness is not to a woman. Faithfulness is to God. So if you are cheating, you're cheating on God.
Because you took them vows in front of him too.
Right. If you're intervening in somebody's marriage, you're intervening in God's creation.
And
woe to you.
I feel bad, not just for the cheater, but just the person that is breaking up this happy home. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're destructing somebody's happy home.
No.
You're taking part. You're taking part in that. Why would you even want to be associated with that?
Because it's
somebody
cute.
has to know better.
It's cute.
Right.
No,
somebody
it's cute.
has to know better.
It's cute. It's cute. And then you end up getting your feelings hurt.
Yeah.
Because the spouse is usually the meat, and they had an argument, and all they need is some potatoes or rice. But nobody want to give up their steak. Not if they know what's good for them. So then you hurt. But I mean, we have to. When I raise my children, we don't even joke about. Sometimes we say, "Oh, you're gonna be a heartbreaker." Oh no, he won't. He's gonna protect his wife's heart,
right?
Like the Bible instructs. We don't even play. We don't even wear those shirts.
Right.
You can wear
don't
God
even joke
fear,
around,
right?
Yeah.
Because those things you institute, you put those tidbits in your kids' head, and they're like, "Oh, a man is." Most people say, "Oh, men can look." I mean, everybody's gonna look. God said you look and you commit adultery.
Yeah.
I don't know what God you worship.
Yeah.
God said you look and you commit adultery in your heart.
Right. That's true.
So the punishment for adultery is yours.
Men or women.
How is that funny? But I'm talking about society gets a pass.
Yes.
Well, you know, men will be men. Will they?
Double standard. There's always a double standard for men and women. So if a man has all these encounters, the chest is puffed out and they pat him on the back, but it's a woman does it. Oh my goodness, she's a floozy.
Scarlet letter A, stoning them.
Yeah,
even in the church.
Yeah.
Even it's perpetuated. Even in the church.
Yeah.
And it does a disservice to woman and her value and where she stands, and to man who doesn't have the proper fear of the Lord.
Right.
Because you're in charge.
What I hate about it in the church, though, if a woman gets pregnant and she's single in the church, they'll put her out. But she might get pregnant by a man that's a member, and he stay there.
Ma, I venture to say pregnancy doesn't happen without a man.
Right.
Whether it's the act or a medical procedure, it doesn't happen without a man.
But they still keep the man.
Yeah.
They turn the woman.
Yeah.
But they'll turn the woman out.
But it's sad
Because
that that's perpetuated in the church.
But the man is undercover, so so they don't.
Even when he's not.
I mean,
I grew up knowing some men that I'm like, you don't know how to name it when you're young. When you get older, you're like, he was a church pimp. But you don't know what it is when you're young. But you knew it wasn't right.
Yeah.
He's with this woman, and then he's with. Oh, I thought he was with auntie such and such.
All that.
Right, and you're like, oh, he was that.